Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
And one of those columns you can read right now is the Big 12 Power Rankings. We discussed that, and you can read about that on KSLSports.com right now. And also commentary from BYU football players and coaches last night. It was kind of fun. There was some celebrating after the game, and out of nowhere, BYU cornerback Trey Alexander had this College Football 25 Stadium Pulse sign that apparently they took from the Wyoming student section. They threw it at the BYU players onto the field, and Trey Alexander just walked away with it, I guess.
It's a nice little souvenir. I saw the picture of it that you put up on X. That's a nice one. That's one you want to put up in your. That's one you put up in the apartment in Provo.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. It's a great college dorm sign. Put it up with all the flags. So yes, it's a really good.
You tack
good
it
look
up
there.
You tack it up with a couple of push pins that your landlord's going to be pissed about at the end of the semester. It's fine. It's all good.
You know what we're not going to be pissed about is the Week 4 slate in the Big 12, Alex. This is a loaded slate as now we finally get into Big 12 play. I think just the fact that we now no longer have to break down 16 games. We can now just break down like 8 or 9.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's going to be just half the fun is really starting to drill down what we know about these teams, and it's a good slate next week.
Yeah, and, the conference delivers weird results. Like, it's very unpredictable. I think that's the part of that Utah fans are going to find out the way that BYU fans did last year, where it's just like, look, and you already saw something last week where I had basically put to bed in my mind that TCU was going to run away with that thing against UCF. UCF goes into Fort Worth. They beat TCU, and it's hard to predict those games. It's hard to actually kind of put it down on paper what you think's gonna happen because the conference delivers in a weird way. Now let's get out of the way one of the not as good games during the week, but still one that's going to have implications in the conference. That's Houston at Cincinnati. These are two teams that right now kind of a question mark because they've had mixed results, and both of them need to get a lot better to be able to be considered part of that even mid-tier of this conference.
If you willingly choose to watch this game, we need to have a conversation. I know we love Big 12 football, but we need to have a conversation if you're picking Houston, Cincinnati in that 10 a.m. window on FS1.
Oof.
The game I would choose at 10 a.m. is Kansas at West Virginia on ESPN2 because that's one of those games where Neil Brown especially, I don't feel like West Virginia fans ever truly like him. I feel like they always try to put him on the hot seat, which is not deserved. He had a 9-win season last year.
This is a disaster of a situation for Kansas, too, because, my goodness, going into West Virginia after they've been so dang close. Kansas, if they play like they did, West Virginia could absolutely put it on these guys if Kansas shows up and Grimy puts together a bad offensive plan like he's been doing the last couple weeks. Could you imagine Kansas going 1-3 after they lose to West Virginia? And you know what? It's a real freaking possibility next week.
Yeah, that would be a bad look for this revamped staff after the changes they experienced in the offseason. Iowa State has a non-conference game. They take on Arkansas State at noon. Arizona State, their first Big 12 game, they take their undefeated record down to West Texas. They go to Lubbock, 1:30 kick on FS1. That's a good barometer game to see how Arizona stacks up with the new look Big 12. Texas Tech got Taj Brooks back this week. That was a big boost to their offense. So that's going to be a good matchup.
Well, it's a weird ask for Kenny Dillingham and his guys. Hey, we need you to go to San Marcos, Texas 1 week. I need you to go back to Tempe, and then we're going to fly out to Lubbock. I mean, you're not going to get the prettiest parts of the state, but look, if they can show up like they did against the last three, I mean, they're 3-0, and they've had some decent games. They ran it up on Wyoming. They took care of business the next 2 weeks, including. I think people really did think that, hey, the shine is going to come off this week. They're going to lose to Texas State. They did not do it. And, man, that's two offenses right now that are kind of humming, which is wild to think that Arizona State has figured some things out on the offensive side. The crown jewel of the entire week is that 2 p.m. kickoff on Fox. That is Utah and Oklahoma State I don't know if they've announced it yet, but it feels like it could be a game day situation there. I'm not sure how close that could be. It might be one of the highest-ranked couple of teams playing one another. I don't know how sexy of a matchup it is. On paper, it's a really, really good one. But Utah and Oklahoma State, I don't know what to think about this one yet because these are two wily coaches who've got a lot of talent between them, but they know how to get their teams up for games like this.
Yeah, just to clear the record too, Oklahoma Tennessee is college game day. It feels like
it is
ESPN,
going to be. Okay,
it feels like ESPN's just doing their investment a solid and going to favor the SEC venues. I hope that doesn't become the thing with game day because really Utah Oklahoma State, which is tied to the Big 12, ESPN is, that would have made a lot of sense to go to Stillwater and that 2 p.m. window. I know that a lot of people wanted that nighttime, prime time, but I think that 2 p.m. spot will get a lot of good ratings.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing matters in this conference where you need to deliver eyeballs and you're thinking long-term about your next media rights. You want to deliver a big audience for that 2 p.m. spot on Fox between Utah and the Pokes. That's the top two teams in the league right now. Another non-conference matchup, TCU goes to SMU in the Iron Skillet battle. I'm very intrigued by that one.
The Iron Skillet battle, is it at a Chili's? What do they do? Where are they doing this thing?
Yes, it's going to be.
Well, it's on the WB. Or I'm sorry, the CW. You tune into the CW.
When you said WB, I instantly thought of that frog.
The
instantly,
and
I
WB.
I guarantee everyone listening thought that too.
The
but
frog
SMU,
with the cane. Oh yeah, it's good stuff.
Coming off the bye week, SMU is after that loss to BYU, so we'll see how they'd look with Kevin Jennings now as their starting QB, and then TCU, of course, coming off the loss to UCF.
Yeah, Baylor at Colorado. Throw out the records when these two very inconsistent teams get together, Mitch. I don't know what to think about this one, but that's why you play these because Baylor and Colorado, you could see either one of these teams blowing out the other one. Baylor going up to Boulder. It's a road game for them, but yeah, these are two teams that both need to get on track, and both are 2-1, but they both are also kind of a little bit fake when it comes to whether or not that 2-1 is a reality. We're going to find out a little bit more about both of these teams this weekend. That's your 6 p.m. Game on Fox.
And then the nightcap, BYU hosts Kansas State. It's Big 12 after dark at its finest. This is going to be an awesome game. I cannot wait. I bet Kansas State is going to bring a ton of fans to this game. They seem very excited to travel out to Provo. It's going to be electric. Fire knives. Cosmo's going to be crazy. Jake Retzlaff's going to throw some wild passes. It is going to be so electric. I cannot wait.
Wow. Look at you. They're going to be handing out cougar tails and ice cream to the visiting fans. Like, it's going to be crazy.
The broadcasters are going to look at the moon and devour cougar tails at midnight. Can they play beyond midnight because it's Sunday? Yes, they can.
Who knows? They will. I will tell you, our youngest, or not our youngest, but our 3-year-old daughter, described to my mom, who did not know what she was talking about. So she describes to her grandmother. And she said, "Oh, you went to the BYU game last week." She goes, "Yeah. Did you see the naked men on the field?" And I thought, that was an interesting thing to bring up to Grandma. That was the fire dancers. And for the record, they are honor code approved. So don't try to throw that at BYU. Kansas State, BYU, that's a big one. A late one. Does it make a difference that Kansas State's going to be playing? It's going to be – I know we make a lot about the body clock situation. Kansas State's playing a 9:30
total body clock game. Total body clock game.
Come on.
You know for a fact I'm writing a body clock game story this week. It's totally happening.
You got to get with like some sort of like sleep physiologist, Mitch. That's your homework this week. Well, the body clock actually. I got to get more body clock talk this week. My heavens. All right. Mitch, another fun one in the books, man. It's always good to do these, and I know that it was a long travel week for you, and the police out there on the highway patrol for Wyoming. You put them through their paces, and I'll tell you what, it was a good one. So I'm glad you know that BYU's not heading out to Wyoming anytime soon. So anyway, it's always fun. It's another edition of First and 12 in the books. Brought to you by Macy's Grocery Store, the freshest fruits and vegetables from local farms and your favorite local brands. Macy's Happy Shopping. For Mitch Harper, our producer Eric, we'll talk to you next week, everybody, right here on 1st and 12 on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.